friends, welcome to my channel, Homestead Life. My name's Teresa and welcome to my kitchen. Tonight we're going to be making homemade cinnamon rolls, and I'm going to bet these are going to be the best cinnamon rolls you've ever had. Alright, we're going to start this off by taking a quarter cup warm milk. So in order to do that, we're going to take our quarter cup milk. We're going to put that in the microwave for about 30 to 35 seconds just to warm it up. So let's start with 30 seconds. We are already going to have had our butter melted, and we do need a quarter cup salted butter already melted. And we are going to wait till that gets done here. We do need 1 egg and 1 egg yolk, room temperature, so these have been sitting out for a little while. So we're going to go ahead and crack these into this little container. This is a full egg. And then we're going to just do the yolk on this one. So the way I do this typically is a little different because I'm not normally wanting the yolk. Okay. So all we want is the yolk. We don't want the whites because we want 1 full egg and then a yolk. So let's go ahead. And there we go, get the rest of that yolk off, or the whites. There we go. Go ahead and put this to the side. Now we're going to grab our milk and see if it's at 110 degrees. That's about what we want. Kind of bath water. We don't want it super warm, but we definitely want it kind of a bath water consistency. Let's see. We need about 110. And each microwave is going to vary, so it looks like I'm going to need to put it in for a few more minutes, or not a few more minutes, a few more seconds here. So let's do maybe 10 more. Okay. This is probably the most difficult portion of the whole entire thing, is trying to get this where we want it, and we are above 110, so we're perfect here. So we're going to let it cool. It's at 128, so we're going to let it cool just a little bit because we don't want to scorch anything. So while we're doing that, we're going to go ahead and get our yeast out. I keep my yeast in my freezer. We're going to be using instant yeast. Go ahead and pour our milk into our bowl here for our KitchenAid. That'll help cool it down just a little bit. Just going to double check the temperature. And yes, that's perfect. We're right at 114, so we'll be fine. Now we're going to go ahead to that and put 2 1/4 teaspoons instant yeast. So 1, 2, and 1/4 teaspoon, the teeny tiny one. And from there, we're going to be adding a 1/4 cup granulated sugar. My sugar, 1/4 cup sugar. Sprinkle that over the top here. This will help the yeast to start doing its thing. And then we're going to put the egg yolks in there. The melted butter. And at this point, I'm going to stir it all together. Just to kind of mix it a little bit and get it slightly mixed up. It doesn't need to be like whipped or anything at this point. We're just kind of mixing it all together. Now we are going to add to this about 3/4 teaspoon of salt, which, you know, it's really hard to kind of figure out, but I just usually do about 1/2. And now we're going to add to that 3 cups of bread flour. It's very important that you're using bread flour instead of just traditional flour, because bread flour will have a different consistency. So we're going to add the 3 cups. This part gets messy. Baking is always messy. 2 and 3. And again, we're going to just kind of give it a little mix to kind of incorporate things here a little bit. And it's going to start to soak up all of that liquid, which is what we're looking for. We don't want it, we're not trying to make the dough completely in the bowl right now. We're just trying to get things kind of incorporated a little bit here. And once it starts to form kind of a little bit of a shaggy kind of dough here, that's when we're going to move it over to the KitchenAid. Okay, and my hands are clean. I like to try to get as much of the dough mixture off as possible. And now we are going to bring over the KitchenAid. It's always difficult to put these things on, but we have that. And we want the dough hook. I'm going to take the dough hook, bring that on up, and we are going to combine this for 8 minutes on medium. So I'm going to set the timer for 8 minutes and we'll be back. Okay, so it hasn't been a full 8 minutes. It's only been about 3 minutes, but it's come together perfectly. And you're never going to know specifically how long it's going to take, but it's just suggested for 8 minutes. So we're going to bring this dough out at this point. Get it off the hook. So we'll put this back out of the way. Absolutely perfect. So what I'm going to do is grab one of my glass bowls. A big glass bowl. And you could actually use anything, but I like to use my glass bowl for this. Let me grab that. And I'm going to spray this glass bowl with some oil just to keep it from sticking. Okay, now that we have the bowl sprayed, I've kind of rounded off the dough just by tucking it in on the ends. And I'm going to put it in here. And then I am going to cover this bowl with a towel. And I'm going to do kind of a trick that a lot of people may or may not know about. But when I cover this, I'm going to put it in my oven that's not turned on, but the oven, I'm going to turn the light on in the oven, which is going to help keep it a little bit warmer. We're in Texas and it's a little chilly today for Houston, but in the house, the best place to prove something is actually in the oven. And I'm not turning the oven on, I'm just covering this. And then I'm going to put it into my oven over here and turn on the oven light. Now we're going to leave it here for an hour to an hour and a half until it doubles in size. Alrighty, so it has been about an hour and a half, and we're going to go ahead and get this out of the oven and see how it has proofed up. And what we have here is definitely doubled in size. So this is perfect. We're going to kind of put this aside for just a minute. And the next thing I'm going to do is grab this amazing little sheet that I have. And it's a pie roller sheet. So it's meant for rolling pies or anything like that. And it allows me to have a nice flat surface, but it also then gives me the ability to roll this out to the correct size of what I want it to be. Let me go ahead and shut this. Here we go. Okay, so we need to roll this out to a 14 by 9, and that's the size that we want. We're going to go ahead and sprinkle a little bit of flour onto our little sheet here to kind of keep it from sticking. Gotta be kidding me. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and do this and roll this out onto. Oh, this is such a nice dough. Love it. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of just work it just a little bit so it's a little oblong. But we want to have it a 14 by 9 inch. So we want it to be as easy to turn into this 14 by 9 as possible. It's very elasticy, this dough, and that's kind of a good thing. As you can see, it kind of likes to move on me. So I'm just going to kind of let it do its thing, and I'm going to let it sit for a second. After I just kind of just let it bounce back. And roll it out. This is where you really get your workout. Just trying to get it to the size that you want. You know, I almost have the length of the 14 inches there. That's great. Okay, so the length we're doing good at. Now the width, we are not quite there. So we need to do that a little bit wider. So let's get it going this direction. And it's really not something that's super easy to do in a square, but that's what we're trying to do, is make this as square as possible. The reason for that is when we roll it up, we're going to put everything in the center here. We're going to put butter and sugar in the center, and so we're going to want this to be something we can roll up and not lose anything. So if we have, you know, some edges here that are not quite square, that can lose some product here, or lose some of the filling in the middle. I'm going to kind of let it sit for just a minute, and we're going to mix the other components that we need really quick. Okay, so what we're going to want to do is 2/3 cup brown sugar. Do I have a 2/3? Of course I know. 2/3 cup brown sugar. And I'm just going to put that in a regular bowl. Got my brown sugar and my cinnamon behind me here. So I'm going to want to pack that pretty tight here. 1/3, 2/3. Okay, I'm going to put this off to the side. Spoons. And then we are going to want 3, let's see, go look at the right thing here. 1.5 tablespoons ground cinnamon. So 1.5 tablespoons ground cinnamon. That's a half. Down here. Does not want to cooperate because my fingers can't get down that far. That's one. Come on, guys. Not right now. And another half. Okay, now we're going to mix this all together. And this is what is going to make filling. You're probably wondering, how does this filling stay in there? I'm going to show you here in just a minute. Okay. Okay, so that's perfect. We're going to come back over here. I need a 1/4 cup butter, softened, which I do have. My butter's been sitting out here. And a 1/4 cup is half of one of these sticks. Where'd my knife go? This is always so much fun to try to do this with my dogs. Out. They were in earlier, but now they're out. Okay. So now what I'm going to do, that this is softened, is we're going to spread that out over here, but we first want to make sure before we spread everything out, what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to make sure that we have this the right size. So let's go back to this now that it's stretched out some and it's kind of had a little bit of time to relax. 14 by 9. We're at 14. Let's see if this is at 9. Yes, it is. So here we go. We are good. 14 by 9. As perfect as I can make this. Okay, I want this just a little bit more. Okay, it's not going to be 100% perfect, but it is what it is. So now we are going to take our butter, and this is softened butter. I'm going to actually, the way I did this the last time was with my spatula. And I'm going to soften it just a little bit more in one of these containers that I have here. Because you kind of want it to be spreadable, and it is almost spreadable, so I'm going to put it in the microwave for just a quick second or so. And it's been out for like 5 hours, so it should be nice and easily spreadable, but it's not quite. There we go. That's the consistency that we want. Something like this, where it's really easy to spread. Almost more like a margarine than an actual butter. And what we're going to want to do is spread this on the dough that's been rolled out, kind of thickly, and bringing it almost all the way to the edge. We want to leave about 1/4 inch from the edge. And this is the glue that's going to basically hold on all of your brown sugar and cinnamon. So that's why we want it to get over here as much as possible. And as we actually put this together and assemble it, and we roll it down, it's going to be pushing all of the goodies that are here, so don't worry too much about it. Okay, there we go. I think that's pretty good. Now we are going to take our mixture and sprinkle it on. You can do it with a spoon or the old-fashioned way, which is even better, with your hands. Now once we have this all on here, we're going to want to pack it down a little bit. And like I said, it is going to work its way through the, as you're kind of putting it on here, it's going to push its way through to the end. Okay. So here we have all the goodies. I want it to be right up to the sides here and right up to about 1/4 inch or so from the very bottom. So like I said, it's going to, as we roll, it's going to roll it out. So now we're going to start at one end and just start rolling our dough tightly. This is my favorite part of it, because as we roll it, we get towards this end, and it's not going to be 100% perfect as far as being square, but you can kind of pull it out a little bit. We're going to just let it sit on itself for just a few minutes. So while it's doing this, I'm going to prepare the pan. Now I am going to take just a regular old casserole dish type thing here, and I'm going to do 2 things with it. First, I'm going to get some spray. Okay, and I just have some avocado spray here. I'm going to spray the bottom of the pan. You can do it in a 9x9, but they're going to be like really super fluffy. This is why I prefer the little bit larger pan. Now I'm going to grab some parchment paper, because I want to line this with parchment paper. Now a little trick, if you didn't know, is crinkle up your parchment paper. When you do that, it allows you to then easily put it into like a cake round or anything like that. I'm going to go ahead and do that. And I'm going to spray this again. Now you're going to want to heat your oven to 350 degrees once you actually do cook this, but we're not about ready to cook it yet. Right now, our next thing is we are going to cut this. We're going to cut it about 2 inches. So what I do is I take my fingers and I do 2 and cut and 2 and cut and 2 and cut. So I'm going to do that right now with my knife. And I'm going to do that on a cutting board rather than my mat. So let's bring this up to the cutting board. Trying not to take it apart. We're going to do 2. And then I'm going to put this here. 2. 2. See why it's important that we keep them rolled pretty closely. 2. 2. I guess I don't have to keep saying 2, right? 6. And this one is going to be a little bit different. So it must have shrunk just a little bit. There should be a total of 9. We've got 6, 7, 8, so I made them a little bit bigger, which is fine. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of space these out just a little bit and give them some room so they're not crowding. Now we're going to put these back into our oven with the light on. It's not heated yet. With the towel back over it. And we're going to do that for 30 to 35 minutes and let those proof again. This is called a double proof. So I'm going to go ahead and set that timer and be back in about 30 to 35 minutes. Okay, so now the cinnamon rolls are done. So I'm going to go ahead and turn off the oven and we're going to pull them out. And we're going to sit them on this to cool. They puffed up nice and beautifully. So what we're going to do is let these cool for just a few minutes, and then we are going to put the icing that we made previously on them. And can't have too much icing on the cinnamon rolls, right? That's part of what makes these things so delicious. Rest of what's in here so that every little bit of these cinnamon rolls are covered in icing. Okay. And there we have some amazing cinnamon rolls. All right, so let's try. We'll just take one of these off to the side here. Grab one of these. I don't need a huge one. And there we have a nice cinnamon roll. Let's go ahead and taste this. Let's grab me a fork too, huh? Piece with all of the goodies on there. These are amazing. So you're gonna have to try these. These are absolutely amazing. Thank you for joining me today, and I'll leave either a link to the recipe or the recipe down below. Have a great day.